Biz.
Простите, пожалуйста. Добрый день.
Я гражданин своей страны, и мне очень понравилось, как слова актера о том, что пока твоя страна в войне, нельзя про нее говорить плохо, солдатам будет хуже.
4 детей. Я думаю, что этим все сказано, правда? Ну, вы представляете, я преподаватель у детей с ментальными нарушениями. Я тоже, можно вам так вот, не буду отвечать, а вот как вы думаете, какие вот у меня чувства, когда я каждый день вижу этих детей? Я страдаю, потому что все мое детство прошло на Украине. Да, для меня я очень страдаю, потому что это моя родина маленькая. Вот это я пострадала больше всего. Они учатся в институте. Они учатся в институте. У меня есть дети, которые действительно, с которыми я занимаюсь, которых я преподаю, которые действительно очень сильно сейчас пострадали, потому что, но я не считаю, что в этом виноваты русские, украинцы. Это все немножко по-другому.
Честно говоря, ну, не знаю даже, что сказать. Просто война, это вся это не прикольно, по моему мнению. Ну, просто воевать, ну, все же мы люди. Столько войн было, ну, неужели никто не учится? То, что деды воевали, столько людей погибло. Я вообще против войны просто в целом. Ну как? Да никак в целом. Ну как могу к этому отнестись? Негативно в целом, конечно. Ну, люди умирают просто так. Ну война это же просто, ну, машина для заработка. Нет, не считаете? Я так думаю. Ну это чисто мое мнение, я никому не навязываю. Да вообще безразлично. Я вон китайским андроидом хожу, и ничего страшного. Ну, ничем не хуже.
Положительно.
Расскажите, почему так?
Ну, потому что 8 лет бомбили своих же, украинцы бомбили своих же. А в принципе там коренное население вообще-то сначала русские. И все это дело состряпала Америка. Вот. Почему украинцы рядовые спокойно реагировали на все это дело? Например, киевляне там и прочее. Почему так спокойно? А когда случилось, заорали, русские бомбят. Да не русские бомбят. Русские помогли это дело уничтожить. И эту армию паршивую надо уничтожать. Надо делать из Украины, значит, безвоенную зону. В общем, короче, я просто заволновался немножко. Больно, когда война идет. Больно всем. Очень больно. Одеваться некуда. Прижала нас Америка. Вон, вся Европа под Америкой сейчас задницу подставила, и все. А с Украины это выбрали просто вот таких, как Порошенко, этот придурок, пианист сраный. В общем, ребята, значит, конечно, положительно. Пройдет эта операция, и все будет нормально.
Я никого не поддерживаю. Я считаю, что и те неправы. Здесь говорят одно, на Украине говорят совсем другое. Поэтому кто прав, кто виноват, я не знаю. Потому что мы всей сути, всей правды мы не можем знать. Нам не скажут ее просто-напросто. Там говорят совсем другое. Я сама с Харькова, я сама украинка. Поэтому я считаю, что мне и тех жалко, и Путина можно понять, и Зеленского можно понять. Он хотел как лучше. И Путин хочет как лучше. А кто прав, кто виноват, жалко только моих родственников и всех, кто там проживает.
Негативно отношусь, это уже повлияло. Допустим, я заходил в ДНС или в какие-нибудь такие магазины, они сразу же выставили таблички, что мы проводим переоценку и решили поспекулировать на росте цен. Негативно я к этому отношусь, к изоляции. Но я думаю, как-нибудь выкрутится из этого Путин. Он будет китайские товары поставлять. То есть мы будем жить за счет китайской техники, а не западной.
Очень негативно.
Кто прав, кто виноват?
Ну, в данном случае, правда, посередине, но очевидно, что Россия агрессор и вторгается на территорию суверенного государства. Ну, железный занавес опускается, к сожалению, и ничего с этим поделать нельзя. Это реакция международного сообщества на, в принципе, те действия России, которых можно было избежать. К сожалению, они такие.
Простых людей беспокоит мир. И не только в нашей стране, но во всем мире. Обычных простых людей. И обычные простые люди все за Путина. Как он скажет, так и будет. Атаковала. Ну зачем же? Откуда такая ложь? совсем не атаковала. Просто находится под охраной. И об этом знают все люди, живущие в нашей стране. У нас западные СМИ совершенно не... Мы любим свою страну и гордимся ею. Если надо будет встать, все встанут и пойдут на ее защиту. Еще свежа память о Великой Отечественной, когда нацисты нас уничтожали.
Понятно. Спасибо вам большое.
Я надеюсь, что его не будут вводить, если даже какие-то слуги ходят.
Нет, на ваш взгляд.
Я думаю, что это фейк.
А почему вы так думаете?
Ну, мне кажется, нам это не надо, и мы, наоборот, берем под контроль, потому что понимаем, что это очень опасно, если на атомных станциях что-то случится. Поэтому я думаю, что это фейк. Это надо спросить у западных СМИ, почему вместо того, чтобы подавать объективную информацию, они распространяют фейки. Уже давно за этим замечено за ними это. Нет. Они тоже, в общем-то, не всегда говорят правду. Все освещают со своей колокольни. Надо делить на два, что говорят обе стороны. И самому думать, что правда, что нет, в общем-то. По большому счету.
Слышали что-нибудь об этом?
Нет, не слышали.
Слышали? А вы?
Нет. Нет.
Почему?
Потому что Путин не допустит.
По крайней мере,
война не здесь идет. Говорю, ну пока что Путин нашу страну защищает. Даже если войдет, справимся, что теперь поделать.
Как сейчас называется, фейк, наверное. Тоже ничего. Взяли под охрану. Там пожар был на вспомогательном помещении. Ну и что? У нас что, пожаров не бывает? Ну, а если кто-то костер развел там на атомной станции, сосиски поджарить и загорелось что-то, ну все.
Я понял.
あ、これも日本だよ。そうそうそう。なんか言ってた。これはメイドインジャパン。 こちらポーランドとウクライナの国境の町に来ています。この先がゲートなんですけれども、かなりの人たちがですね、今ウクライナ側から避難する人たちのことを待っています。またですね、歩いてきている人たちというのが、ウクライナから逃げてきた人たちです。皆さんスーツケースなども片手に抱えてですね、気の身気のままという感じで逃げてきた様子が伺えます。ご覧ください。もうここ人がたくさんいます。向こう側から、ウクライナから歩いてきて越えてきた人たちが今ここに溜まっているような状況です。なぜここに人が多いかというとですね、あちら、テントといいますか、傘みたいになっているところあります。ここでですね、救援物資、食料の支援というのをボランティアの団体が行っています。で、皆さんですね、逃げてきて、長い距離歩いて寒い中、温かい飲み物だったり甘い食べ物というのをここでもいただいているという状況ですね。もう一旦ここで落ち着くと、皆さん長い旅路でちょっと落ち着いて、その後のそれぞれの場所に向かうという形のようです。ボランティアの人たちももう長い時間この寒い中外で皆さん支援活動をしているという状況です。
Так, подобається. Дуже привітно і вкусно. Подобається так.
We are doing everything that we can because people are coming and they don't know what to do, where to go, and we are standing. We can transfer them, like people are coming from Poland to help them, and they're giving food and everything like they need. He is in Lviv. Yes, we have a connection, but the situation is terrible, so we are just very nervous. So yeah. We don't know what to expect from Russia. So yeah. But now Lviv is, I think, I don't know what can I say because the situation is really it's changing all the time. We read news every minute. It's like something new, and we don't know what to expect next.
こちら今通過していく車、少しずつウクライナからポーランド側に車で来る方増えてますが、見るとですね、女性や子どもの姿が多いです。自分の家族じゃない子どもたちを乗っけて避難させようというような動きもあるみたいで、車がやってくると時折、ここで待っている人たちが声をかけるという光景が見受けられます。
Тут на камеру.
Только не матерись, не матерись.
Добре. Це моя держава. А що б ви зробили, якщо б в вашій країні було б таке? Сиділи в Польщі або в іншій країні? Допоможіть Україні, не бросайте її в цей скрутний час. Нам потрібна допомога ваша. Там гибнуть діти.
Дякуємо.
今ですね、私これ駅なんですけれども、この駅ちょっとこちら側見てみるとかなりのたくさんの人がいまして、ウクライナから逃げてきた人たちが来るこの場所はですね、国境エリアにあるプシュミルという駅です。でですね、ここに今支援物資というのがかなり並んでいまして、ここで一旦国境を越えられたウクライナから逃げてきた人たちがいろいろと物資を受け取ると、軍の人なんかが配っていたりもします。でちょっと今ここからは見えないんですけれども、この奥の方にはですね、一時的に休むようなスペースもありまして、簡易ベッドですねがありまして、ここで実際に一夜を明かすというような人もいるような状況です。こういう一時的な避難所にですね、かなりの人数が押し寄せていてですね、もう夜中中もう24時間誰かしらがここで寝泊まりしているような状況になっています。
Маєте якийсь контакт зі своєю родиною?
Так, я кожні, напевно, пройшла Донецьк, бо я з Донецьку сама. І я пам'ятаю це, коли я виїжджала на потяг, на таксі, над моїм будинком пролетів воєнний самоліт. І я зрозуміла, що це початок війни, як тоді. Я думала, що такого не буде. Ніхто не думав. Не одна людина, яка залишилась зараз в Києві і ховається в підвалі, не думала про це.
You need some footage, I can also do it for you.
簡易宿泊の場所にはですね、子どもたちの姿がすごく目立ちます。女性と子どもたちがかなり多いなと感じるんですけれども、これなぜかというとですね、実は国境の付近で18歳から60歳の男性については今ですね、ウクライナが予備役というのを始めて、戦闘に参加する可能性があるということで、国境で追い返されてしまうという事態も起きています。これはある程度仕方のないことなんですけれども、それで国境まで来たのに別れることになってしまう、離れ離れになってしまうという、少し胸が張り裂けるようなそういうことを経験している人たちもかなり増えているという状況ですね。
Przychodzą do nas ludzie, którzy chcą pomóc, załatwiają nocleg, transport, spisujemy ich numery, jeśli ktoś do nas przyjdzie, potrzebuje na przykład nocleg w Rzeszowie czy coś, my to po prostu dzwonimy do tych ludzi i staramy się to tak ogarnąć, żeby ci ludzie tam trafili. Oczywiście to już teraz się tak odbywa, że musimy coraz więcej informacji podać, typu numery rejestracyjne, numery dowodów chcą, bo musimy mieć potwierdzenie, że ci ludzie bezpiecznie trafiają w dane miejsce. Także głównie przychodzą ludzie, którzy chcą pomóc.
ここはですね、左側は車が通過して、右側から歩いて国境を越えてくる人たちが来るという場所になってます。はい、今もまさに1台の車が来ました。先ほどから断続的に車が通過しています。待っている人たちたくさんいるんですが、彼らが待って目線を向ける先には今まさに歩いてきている家族もいますね。はい。
Trzymamy kciuki.
この人たちも女性と子供たちという感じですね。ああ、よかった、再会できた。お父さんですね、きっとポーランド側にいたんでしょうか、家族と。もう安心して家族あるいは友達と会った瞬間に涙を流すというような方もたくさんいます。赤ちゃんと再会して泣いてますね。ここですね、道路の横にはこのようにですね、救援物資がたくさん積まれています。これ何かというとですね、実は組織されたものではなくて、それぞれポーランドの人たちなどがですね、もう個人的に持ち運んでいるということです。本当にこう自然発生的に広がっているもう善意の輪というものになります。
I'm from Ukraine and I'm still waiting for my son and also for my colleague. I think that now she is a refugee. She and her relatives and three little kids, and I have booked them flats, accommodation, and they are not far from border, maybe 20 kilometers, but I am not sure whether I see them today. So my son is not far from this place. I'm waiting for him. He is 16 years old, and my son is in Kiev. He is 26 years old, and he also knows Japanese. It was his choice. He has decided to stay in Ukraine. Yes, I am worried as a mother, but so what I will have, I can only ask our God to help him.
Because Russian troops are attacking people who are trying to escape from Kiev city. I think it is better to stay at home and wait until the war will end. All windows are closed, so we try to close as we can do it. ありがとうございました。母さんを見るとても嬉しい。It can finish only after Putin's order. Everything I have to do, I can do. It's only to hope.
もう全然普通のプラットフォーム。ナンバー9ってここ？そこですか？私は今フィンランドの首都ヘルシンキ中央駅のホームに来ています。この駅はですね、ロシア第2の都市サンクトペテルブルクから1日2本長距離列車が到着しています。このホームちょうどいつも到着する場所です。今日もこの後2時間後に1便到着します。スーツケースを持って降りてくるロシア人客は若者から高齢者まで様々な人がいました。 EU ではロシアのワクチン認められていないため、誰でも簡単に出国できるわけではないのですが、こちらに家族がいるなどの理由で来ている人が多かったです。ただですね、一部ロシアへの経済制裁や、国内での言論統制などを嫌がり、ロシアを出てきたという人たちもいました。今まさにですね、来ている電車というのがサンクトペテルブルク、ロシアからフィンランドに向かってきた電車です。この電車が最近ですね、もう満員続きということで、増便までしているということです。こちらのアレグロという電車がそうですね、フィンランドとサンクトペテルブルクを結ぶ電車だそうです。
Of course, it's because of sanctions too.
They've got from the accounts for running to other countries to just avoid the possibility of not being able to get away later on.
So yeah, the background. Yes, the train. Yeah, the capacity of train was quite fully booked. So of course we just wanted to maybe to increase also the number of trains, and we have asked now for the Russian side also to, because we must do the decision together. These people which are traveling now, like Finnish citizens and Russian citizens, and of course Russian citizens which were traveling, they have like some kind of a Schengen visa or Finnish visa, and they're like going somewhere, or either in Finland or maybe in some other European countries. So like the transit passengers.
How is the current situation about the asylum seeker? So the number and the what kind of people come to Finland?
Yeah, now the number is high, but most of them come from Ukraine. We have over 7,000 Ukrainians who have sought for international protection, and for example, number of Russians is less than 100. So there is 100 times more Ukrainians than Russians who are seeking for international protection.
It's difficult to answer this question. So what's your view about the future? So the number of the people matter.
Of course, it depends what will happen in Russia. The whole situation in the country and economic situation and everything. So of course we monitor it carefully, but we haven't seen any rise in numbers in what comes to asylum seekers with Russian citizens. こちらも軍用品とキャンプ用品の店で、なんかこういう、これはあくまでモニュメントだと思うんですけど、いろんなものが売ってます。奥ナイフなんかも売ってますね。銃は展示用で売ってるわけじゃないみたいなんですけども、いろいろとキャンプ&軍の備品みたいなものが売ってましてですね、ちょっとここ見てください。空の棚があります。これ何かというとですね、救急用のセット、怪我した時に手当てするセットなんですけども、もう今までに類を見ないぐらい売れているそうです。バンテージ、包帯ですねとかもなくなっていると。これなんかは、もう最後の一個ですけど、止血用のベルト38ポンドが8ユーロ結構するんですけども、在庫もないような状態です。で皆さん面白いのが、これを買って自分用に買う人ももちろんいるんですけれども、ウクライナを支援するためにも現地に送るという人がかなりの数いるそうです。これも今までなかったことということです。はい、であそこのコーナーで買えるのが防弾チョッキだったり、ちょっと本格的な軍隊用のものが高価なものなんでコーナーで買えるんですけども、こちらに売ってあるもの、防弾チョッキなんかもものすごい勢いで売れているそうです。もうセットで買うとですね、プレート、防弾用のプレートも合わせて2000ユーロ、つまりですね、25万円以上はするんですけれども、それでもかなりの数どんどん飛ぶように売れているということでした。 でここにこの板がこう、入ると。これはちょっとサイズが違うらしいんであるんですけど、なかなか確かに絶対普段使わないような、相当やっぱ重たいですね。でもこれでも軽い方っていうことでした。そうね、8キロ9キロぐらいになると。
Meillä on paljon asiakkaat ostaa ja lähettää suoraan Ukrainaan, ja sitten suomalaiset reserviläiset haluaa valmistautua ja niin kuin ostaa itselleen niin kuin varmuuden vuoksi. Varautuminen on myös Suomessa noussut. Joo, mutta se on aika halpa henkivakuutus sitten kuitenkin.
あなたも持ってるんですか、自分のやつ。
Onko sä itse ostanut?
Olen.
Oho,そう。
Mä uskon, että niin kuin kaikki, jotka näitä ostaa, niin se luo turvallisuuden tunnetta.
Ampukaa!
今ですね、これ民間の軍事トレーニングに参加している人たちの様子を撮ってるんですけども、すごい硝煙の匂い、煙の匂いします。この人たちも自らここに来て、このピストルの扱い方を学びに来ているということです。今ですね、ピストルを撃った自分の撃った弾が実際にちゃんと当たってるかどうかというのを確認するという、皆さん作業をしに来ています。めっちゃすごい。Are you good shooter? Yeah. Have you ever experienced that?
Sorry, I got the ear protection.
Have you ever experienced shooting?
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What brought you here today?
Well, I'm a reservist. And this is the reservist job, so I'm here.
What do you do for living?
My civilian job? Yeah, I'm a dentist.
Dentist?
I'm a dentist, yeah.
What do you do for living? Occupation?
I work for medical devices.
Oh.
Olympus.
Olympus?
Yeah.
Japanese company?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm proud of that. What's your occupation?
I'm a doctoral researcher at the University of Helsinki.
Oh, University of Helsinki. Oh,
yes.
So sure. Unstable situation. So after the invasion happened, sorry. What do you think about this situation?
I think it's worrisome. It's maybe less surprising that it should be. Of course, when it actually happened, I mean, there were signs. There had been many hypotheses that something like this might happen. I think no one really wanted to believe it. But looking at all the signs, you know, the war in Georgia and the invasion of the Crimean Peninsula and all of this, at the end of the day, it's maybe not that surprising. It's very unfortunate and very sad, and of course it's thrown the entire European security situation into a mess.
This exercise is also helpful for the emergency case like invasion in the near future.
I think it's useful that people maintain a certain level of ability to function in a crisis. Of course, every soldier should be able to shoot.
So, how is the current number of the inquiry to join this exercise?
Huge.
So the
three times, 2 times as much as before the current crisis going on.
Oh, sure.
We have an extremely high will to defend the home country, so it is obvious to me that. And the high number of conscripts who have done the military service, so it's obvious that they want to still keep up their skills.
これはもう、市街戦の、演習ということです。皆さんこのビルをチェックしながら中に敵が潜んでいる可能性もあるので、ここのビルの中をチェックしながら進んでいくということですね。窓の上だったり向かいの建物も警戒しつつ進むと。Could you explain what they are doing now?
They are training the movement around the building and the windows. They are dangerous, of course.
I think the first person with this team is very in danger.
Yes.
And the last person is also.
Yeah. So this is very difficult because the buildings has a lot of openings. So if you have the enemy inside, they got in those 3 weeks, the war has gone on in Ukraine. So they got like 6,000 contacts from civilians or from the reserve that they want to come on these courses. So the people are like reacting on the situation in Ukraine.
こちらセントラルレールウェイステーション、ヘルシンキ中央駅って感じですねの地下鉄の、地下に潜るところのエスカレーターです。かなり深いですね。もうすでにここの時点で、2フロア分ぐらい地下に潜ってるんですけど、さらに今下に行く感じですね。こちら今駅のホームですね。もうここまさに電車が到着するところなんですが、この上に通じるこのエスカレーターのある手前、ここがですね分厚い扉が閉まるようになっていまして、何かあった時のシェルターとして使えるようになっています。Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. For the emergency case, like nuclear incident or like that. So, could you tell us the preparation for that? So,
in Helsinki, we have 850,000 shelter places for residents. In Finland, shelter places are approximately 4 million.
4 million?
Approximately.
Wow. Sorry. What's the population of Finland?
5.5, 5.4. Mostly even nuclear incident because the possibility that the nuclear weapon should take full impact on every part of the city is so low. But on the full impact, that shelters aren't designed for the full impact of direct hit on nuclear weapons. It is a possibility. It's more a possibility today than it was 2 weeks ago, but still it's just a possibility.
今回取材して感じたのは、すぐには危険があるわけではないけれど、不気味な脅威を感じているというフィンランドの市民の感覚でした。実はフィンランドはですね、80年前にも今回のウクライナと同じような構図で旧ソ連に侵攻されたという経験があります。そのため備えは忘れないという姿勢のようです。フィンランドのマリン首相は今月、NATO 加盟を議会で議論すると表明しました。長年保ってきた中立姿勢を変更するかどうか、岐路に立たされていると言えそうです。フィンランドにあるロシア大使館の前なんですが、いろいろとウクライナを支援するメッセージが掲げられています。その中にですね、ちょっと一見なんだかわからないような、このようなサインもあります。これですね、実はですね、ロシア語でニュースを配信しているぞというフィンランドの大手新聞社のメッセージなんです。ロシアでプロパガンダのが多数ありましてですね、情報統制厳しくなってきている中で、ロシア語で西側のニュースを発信するというのを行っています。
Helsingin Sanomat started to publish news in Russian together with two Nordic newspapers, the Dagens Nyheter and Politiken, and the our main idea is that the Russian people have the right to know, and as the Russia's war of aggression has been progressing it's more and more clear that there is a lack of independent and trustworthy information available to the Russian-speaking audience. So we wanted to take in our part to distribute some of our content in Russian to help people inside Russia to better understand what is happening in Ukraine and in their own country.
So are you sure the Russian people can read the article of yours?
Yes, yes, we don't know that, and we see that we receive traffic, from example, from Moscow and St. Petersburg. We see from our analytics that there are people from those regions reading our articles.
I agree with your opinion, but it's difficult to pull Russian people away from their propaganda. So what do you think about the situation?
Well, of course, the television is very strong in Russia, and the national state-controlled television is projecting one storyline on this subject. But I still feel that even though it is difficult, it's still something that is valuable, because all shreds of truth that might be reaching the Russian audience have the possibility to influence how they think of the situation. And I think that it's also important that we see that it is we don't leave the Russian audience alone in this kind of situation, that this is also to support the people within Russia who feel that this war of aggression is not something they want to be part of. So providing at least them with accurate information is a valuable thing.
So maybe you have met Zelensky,
President Zelensky, yes, I met.
So yes. How was your impression?
Well, I met him just before the war. It was 10 days before the war. I was in Kiev, yes, and I was meeting President Zelensky, and we spoke a lot about the situation. And I mean, he's a democratically elected president, contrary to Putin. And this is what Ukrainians cherish so much, that they actually have a right to choose. And that's why they don't want to be liberated by Kremlin, because they know what is this liberation. You are cut off chances to decide on your country's fate. So he's that was before war. I think he surprised quite many people around the globe for being so tough and so committed to defense of his country, and not absolutely thinking about fleeing or being in exile. Or this is extremely important for the people who are in Ukraine now, because you need to have your leader on the ground. You understand that he's with you in this situation. So I think he's a strong leader, and this very bad situation, this humanitarian crisis, and this actually crime against humanity also proved him to be a very strong leader and very fit leader for the nation. So that would be my comment. And I think no surprise that all the parliaments are applauding him when he speaks up. And I know he was speaking also in Japan Parliament, which is not a very typical thing, and there are quite many things that are changing. And this is important. I mean, we can send him all the compliments we have, but we also have to send him more support in terms of military weapon and all the other support that we can, because Ukraine is not fighting just for Ukraine. It is fighting for us, in the sense that it is fighting for the concept of liberal democracy.
But NATO can't intervene so militarily in Ukraine.
Well, there are things that need to be taken into account, and of course this is for the politicians, for the big group of NATO leaders to take these decisions. So it's easy to speak your personal views, but it's more complicated to speak the collective responsibility views. But look, most of the countries that are providing all sorts of help to Ukraine are actually NATO countries.
So is your personal opinion different from what the NATO, as a NATO decided?
Well, you know, I do not have any jet fighters to provide to Ukraine. So it's, in this sense, it is quite easy for me to say that I would do this if I could. But I am not in a position to do anything about it. So it is for this collective agreement to have the view on this. But I mean, we're not out of there. And what is important, if NATO is not participating, if we cannot achieve that United Nations would impose this security zones, at least around nuclear power plants or around humanitarian corridors, because it's Russia that is sitting on Security Council, and this looks a little bit Kafkaesque, so to say, where you sit in a council that decides on your own invasion on Ukraine. Then what we absolutely need to do, we need to increase the support that we are providing to Ukraine on one hand, and on the other hand we need to increase the pressure on Kremlin to make this war simply unbearable.
So in terms of intervention, someone is criticizing the President Biden's announcement, so that they don't think they've deployed their troops in Ukraine before this war happened. So what do you think about it?
Well, it's, you know, it's for the leaders to make these decisions. But I know that the United States was providing and is providing significant support for Ukraine in many ways. So you know, it is a different thing where your army actually participates in the battle, but you have so many other ways to provide support, because the Ukrainian army has been trained by trainers and experts from NATO. They know how to fight, and now we need to provide them with the support that they need.
But I think so he should have avoided a comment like this.
Well, you know, I'm not a person who would, I mean, he's not president of my country, so it's easy to comment on other politicians, but I will most probably leave it there.
Through your essay, so you describe the West as a hit the snooze button and postpone programs. Are there alliance members who are snoozing even now?
Well, I would say that there are still countries or leaders who are doing the same mistake as they were doing in the past. The major mistake of Western leaders is to try and judge Putin by the standards of liberal democracy. And this you cannot do, because you often hear this debate that we need to say what are the reasons of sanctions, and then what steps Putin needs to take that we call the sanctions back. I don't think this is a fruitful and reasonable debate. Then the second sort of mistake is to think, I know that it stems from Sun Tzu, but still, I think this is a Western liberal democracy mindset, that you need to sort of build the bridge for your enemy to step back so that he could save the face. I mean, he doesn't need to save the face. He is not standing to whatever elections. He does not have a need to prove something to his people, because if he says that something is black, then it will be black regardless that it is red. And you do not need sort of to think how he feels about it, because it's just ridiculous. So I would say that there is still this understanding that you need to create, we as Western democracies need to create him an exit strategy. This is not what we need to do. I think what we need to do is to keep the price very high and even increase it.
So which country did the worst mistake?
I think this is a collective responsibility. Same like we speak about Russian people. And now we hear this question: we should not hurt the people, and we should impose sanctions that somehow do not hurt the people. But look, it's not people's guilt, but it's people's responsibility. So I think also in this case, you cannot say that this is a guilt of Western liberal democracies, but this is a collective responsibility for not doing things well in advance and for sort of financing this war machine and letting it grow to this extent so that Russia dared to risk an attack and of course miscalculated, because there were so many things that were out of their, you know, calculations. The resistance of Ukrainian people, the speed with which West had responded, both in terms of weapon supply and military help supply, but also in terms of sanctions, the level of coordination that we managed to achieve, and that was an unprecedented coordination, not only within the European Union when you need to get a consent of 27, but also among the European Union, United States, United Kingdom, Japan, all the countries, even the countries that were never ever participating in whatever sanctions like Switzerland. So I think this is what is upside of the situation. But if we come back, we cannot rewrite history now, we can only speculate. But I'm very confident that if this reaction, or part of this reaction, not the whole, but a part of this reaction would be seen 8 years ago, 7 years ago, then the picture today would have been completely different.
So you suggested the Western countries should put their more sanction, put their same sanction on Belarus. Could you explain your opinion about this?
We know that only part of the banks are diswifted, so to say, and if you take the major banks that are sort of major tracks for a payment settlement, then it's only one of the banks that is actually diswifted, and big banks like Sberbank or others are still available to make payments. Of course, they are suffering their own losses because of market prices of their shares and things, and because the payments for goods becoming more and more complicated due to other sanctions. But still, I think that there is no really good ground to keep at least those biggest banks within the SWIFT system for longer. And oil and gas is the major flow of money that still is financing Putin's economy and his war. And I think it is doable reasonably quickly in terms of oil. Of course, for gas, maybe it's a little bit more complicated due to infrastructure that one needs to have, for example, an LNG supplies. But look at us. We've been blackmailed by Gazprom for so many years that we got actually nervous and angry. So we built up an LNG terminal, and now basically I don't care about Gazprom. So this is a strategy that European Union had to enforce years before. But on the contrary, some of our member states were sort of digging into this dependency on projects like Nord Stream that is not operational anyway, because there is a war. So Germany decided, and rightly decided, to stop it. But it should have not happened first instance. But I still think that there is a very reasonable grounds to increase the sanctions, because there we hear this, we need to wait and see how they function, but we know that people in Mariupol are being killed on the streets. There are, I don't know how many people who were just brutally killed. This is a war crime that is going on. So we can calculate, but I think this calculation should not take very long.
警察を取らないようにっていうことですよね。警察を取らないように。ここまさに国境なんですけども、この向こう側がウクライナで、この手前側がモルドバです。ただですね、ここの国境エリアはあまりこう歩いて渡る人はいないみたいですね。車で基本的に来ています。はい。まあここ国境ではあるんですけども、非常に静かで、あまりこう人が 大量に押し寄せているという感じの場所ではありません。こちらまさにですね、今来てる人たちというのがもうウクライナから国境を越えて一旦ここでバスを乗り換えるという形ですね。ここでちょっとバスを大きなバスだったり、あるいはモルドバ国内に行く小さなバスに乗り換えるということで、もう続々と人が降りてきます。今泣いてる子いましたけど、やっぱりちょっとちっちゃい子には長旅厳しいですよね。幸い今日はそんなに寒くないですけども、夜は寒いですし、はい、小さい子たちは少しちょっと、ここに今いる方、避難してきた方っていうのはこれまでは小さい子もいるからなかなか国外に避難しなかった、でもそうも言ってられなくなった、大変だけれども避難せざるを得ないというような状況の人たちもいると思われます。結構ちっちゃい子がやっぱり逃げてきてるのは、前から知ってますけども、女性と子供ってことですね。避難してきたのは男性で、ここにいる人たちは基本は手伝いです。やっぱり最初の時と比べて押し寄せてるという、避難民の人を押し寄せてるというよりか、もう少しなんか体系だったといいますか、少しシステム化されてる形にはなっていますね。この辺りはあまり喜ばしいことじゃない点でいうと、長引いてしまったからというのもあるんですけども、この後も避難民の方来る時には、皆さんが安心して避難できるような体制っていうのができてるんじゃないかなというのを感じました。
We are filming the support for refugees. So once again, so what kind of organization are you?
This is Christian Church from Moldova.
Yes. From Moldova? Oh,
yes.
I'm Moldova. Are you from Moldova?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What kind of support do you know?
We help refugees. We made coffee, tea, and food for refugees.
Oh.
Did you cross the ocean?
Лапшичкой подходим, девочки, супчик. Будем супчик?
Alex.
Суп. Суп.
Печка подвела.
Суп с лапшичкой.
С мясом даже. Вот. С мясом.
So Moldova population come to the Moldova as a refugee. So this is very difficult situation. So what do you think about it?
Okay. Moldova is a little country. We have 2.5 million people, but we very glad our people want help refugees. Yes, many refugees go in Moldova. I think 500,000 or more refugees go from Moldova to Europe. Moldova is very poor country, but we have a big heart. Yes, and we want help these people in need.
And so I can see some international organizations.
Yes, we collaborate with any international organization. Organization help children, mothers with children, and people with health problems, invalid, yes, or another problem. Yes, very good people. France, Italy, I think. Any organisation, yes.
Je pense que ça c'est le plus important à retenir, quelle que soit la nationalité des différentes associations et des différentes personnes. Chacun vient en aide à l'être humain en difficulté.
with our experience, we can say that the effort of Moldova is remarkable. The solidarity of the person in this country is really remarkable.
Disaster relief team.
Is there any other team that you can come up with right now? Just imagine.
No, because Intersource is downstairs here.
Somewhere, okay.
Yes. We can put it somewhere here, and we know that.
Exact location there.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
今回の危機事象が起こってから多数の避難民の方々がモルドバ国内に流入しておりますが、そういったことに伴いなして医療の対応が必要になっています。でそこの部分を助けるために世界中から今災害医療チームがモルドバ国内に入って活動を展開しているという状況になります。でそれはもう本当に国のチームであったり NGO であったりさまざまなパートナーがいらっしゃるんですけれども、そういったチームがどこにいるのかということを確認して、さらに現場の状況がどうなっているのかと、やはりなかなか実際の現場からの情報でつかみにくいので、そこの部分をデイリーリポート、日報という形で提出していただくということを日本のチームが入ってから始めているというような状況になっています。なので特に日本のその情報に基づいてまたチームの再配置などをやっていくというのが私たちの仕事ということです。
これつまりは国境付近とあと首都のここシナウの付近がやっぱりそういうエリアが多いということなんですかね、支援拠点みたいなのが多いということですかね。
はい、やはり人口が多い場所、あるいは流入が多い場所というところに今チームが展開しているということが確認されている状態だと思います。
ここに車が来るんですよ。来て本当にここに来るんですけど、そこからルーマニア行き、長距離バスの大きなのに乗る人、あと少し中距離というかちっちゃいのはもうみんな大体シナウに行く人っていうのはうまい具合にちゃんと住み分けできて、全然混乱もしてる感じもなくて、でその場所はあったかく、いろんなところのなんかヒーターみたいなところも来てたってテントもあるんで、あったかいものも食べれるし、結構なんか整然とした感じで、ただ次から次に来るには来るんですけど、
まさに例えばそこで本部として、あるいはこの調整をするために知りたいのは何人、どんな患者さんがどこで診療されたかっていうのを知りたいと。で全体として今日災害医療チームがどれぐらいの患者さんをどんなタイプの症状、感染症なのか怪我なのか、そういう重症なのかそうでもないのかというところを集計する必要があるということですね。でそれを集計する方が
これは大丈夫ですかね、表紙は。
大丈夫です。はい、
これは大丈夫です。デイリー、もうタイトルがもう思いっきりデイリーレポーティングフォームっていう日報ですね、本当に。
これが現在具体的に正式にモルドバ保健省に採用されて使われているミニマムデータセットの日報です。で非常に簡単なものなんですが、まずチームの情報、チームの名前、どこにいるのか、どんなタイプのチームなのか、チームのサイズとかですね、というような情報に加えて診療した患者さんの人数ですとか、例えば新しく生まれた新生児の数の方の人数とか怪我の人数というのを網羅的に集めていると。でこれを集めていただくことで終わってはいけなくて、これを集計して、会議に間に合わせて、でそのデータに基づいてみんなで明日の医療を考えていくということをやるんですけれども、その集計がやっぱりこういった状況でなかなか大変です。でそういったところに対して日本の災害医療の情報管理技術というのが大変発展しているので、そこの部分に対して WHO からぜひ一緒に仕事をしないかというお話があって、今回JICA チームとして来させていただいているということになります。
What do you think about the role of JICA team at the moment?
You see, it's a great challenge always when you have so many different actors on screen to give their support to refugees, to Ministry of Health, and there is always very difficult to get proper information what's going on the field. Thanks to JICA team, we have this opportunity that we have a so-called minimum data set. We're collecting, analyzing, sharing it with MOH and with other partners if needed, that we have overview. What teams doing on site, what kind of challenges they have, and definitely through this tool we reducing pressure to local healthcare providers, to the Ministry of Health.
お屋敷みたいな。ですよね。こちらあるワイナリーのシャトー、屋敷ですね。お客さんを普段は迎えるためにあるんですけど、ここ今旗掲げられてますけども、ウクライナの旗もありますね。こうです。なんでアメリカの旗もあるんだろう。ね。ケイ。ずらっと。これが実際のワインのバレルわけですね。オーク。結構暗いですね。
So everything you see here, it was improvised beds for refugees, and it was storage for different refugee necessities, blankets, clothes, and everything. So here now, of course, it looks more clean, but it was in the first days that we took all the wave of the refugees. Before the government had everything in place, such as buses and camps and other refugee centers in place. So until that happened, in the first days, on the first day, we set up everything we could here to take on refugees.
So how many refugees?
So in total, we have helped around 3,000 refugees. So we not only we have allowed them to stay here, but we also on the first day we prepaid all the hotels in the region to make sure that no refugees denied accommodation. So we prepaid. Even now, we're still paying for hotels in these regions. Yeah, I think what's very important for the Ukrainian people is not only to receive such support in terms of food and water and shelter, but is also to have that feeling that their neighboring country is helping them, and to have that feeling that they have a shelter and support even while they're being away from home. That's very important. Yes, thank you. So I don't look. One thing I want to make clear: we don't want to be too commercial about this, because the last thing we want to do is to derive any commercial, benefits from the suffering of Ukrainian people. The product of this wine, Freedom Blend, is not now. This Freedom Blend, we created it in 2014. 2014. After the annexation of Crimea. So after there was a conflict in Moldova in 1992. There was a conflict in Georgia in 2008. There was a conflict in Crimea in 2014. So these states, not only Moldova, Georgia, and Ukraine, but pretty much all the states that have become independent after the breakout of Soviet Union, they actually are still fighting for a de facto freedom. Yes, they gained their independence, but they're still fighting to be free to choose how they want their country to develop and with which values they want to associate with. So we thought that in 2014, we could not stand still, and we wanted to pass a message also through our products. So we came up with this blend. It's a blend of 3 local varieties. It's a variety from Georgia, which is Saperavi. It's a local variety from Moldova, which is Rara Neagră, and it's a local variety from Ukraine, which is Bastardo. So we say that this wine has the heart of Georgia, the terroir of Moldova, and the free spirit of Ukraine. So today, unfortunately, the message that this wine gives is more actual and more relevant than ever. And we are working on relaunching this product. We are changing the label. And the message that we'll give with a new edition. We'll call it the Tribute Edition. the message will be thank you Ukraine, Дякую Ukraina.
To show the support for Ukraine.
And why we want to thank Ukraine, we as Moldovan people, because right now, in a way, the Ukrainian fighters, they're fighting for us. They're holding the ground, they're fighting their war, but they're also protecting us. And they're fighting not only for Moldova physically, that, I don't know, Russian tanks do not arrive to Moldova, but they're fighting for freedom, for the concept of freedom, for the concept of being able to choose the direction in which your people, your country, choose to go to. So, at the moment, you know that it's a bigger war. It's a war that is happening in Ukraine, but it's a bigger war between values that are being carried by countries in the Western world, in Europe, in the United States, versus other values.
This is it. はい。じゃあ、ありがとうございます。じゃあちょっと試飲してみたいと思います。フリーダムブレンド。お、すごい芳醇な香りですね。いただきます。とても飲みやすい。すごいかなり香り強めですね。そしてライトなのかな。はい。モルドバとウクライナとジョージアのブドウが使われているということです。本当に飲みやすい。結構あまり私普段ワイン飲まないんですけど、ぐいぐい飲んでしまいますね、これは。今ですね、こちら高台に登ってきたんですけど、もう向こう側、高台の丘降りた向こう側、つまり川の向こうの町はもうウクライナってことですね。はい、本当に近いですね、このちょっと。段差気をつけてください。
Я вам не принесла. Я вам хлебушку взяла. Я уронила. Что уронила где? Яичко я уронила. А куда ты не уронила? Где ты уронила? Куда ты уронила? Туда. Наточка, там нет яичка. Дядя фильм про тебя снимает, а ты вредничаешь. А тебе? Да, дядя фильм. Мы доехали на автобусе до Маяк, а дальше мы шли по трассе пешком, пока нас Красный Крест не подобрал. Ну, у меня проблема с обувью была, у меня с обув порвался, мне дали другие, то есть как гуманитарная помощь, я понимаю, что это как секонд-хенд, там они, конечно, старенькие уже, но опять же, я не босиком. Дали, они осенние, да, ну их дали. Пожалуйста, вот я же говорю, с ребенком были проблемы, помогли. Медсестра приехала, медсестра каждый день к ней приходила, наведывалась, ну то есть, и как-то ты выходишь на улицу, я честно, я так боялась, что вообще ехать куда-то в другую страну, я думала, что будет отношение, знаете, что приехали сюда, вот такого плана. А здесь наоборот, как бы нормально, дружелюбно, пожалуйста. И участковый даже вот приезжал, когда нас регистрировал, он дал свой номер телефона, если что, вдруг, участковый милиционер, да, пожалуйста, если вдруг звоните, что, то есть, ну, поразительно. Везде я увидела тупик, я не думала, что доживу, не было войны в моем детстве. Вот будущее, молодых будущее. Жалко, обидно.
Что, дядьки, да? Смущает тебя, снимают?
Я встречался с семьей в Москве, там тоже была мама и двое детей. Она учительница в Монтессори.
Смотри, что я еще могу. Где собака?
Yes. Hey. Hello. Hello. Nice to meet you, sir. I'm Wataru from TV Tokyo.
Thank you.
TV cameraman.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
You want me to sit where? There?
Yes, please.
Foreign minister participated in the NATO as a partner. What role did he play as a partner country?
No, we are very pleased that for the first time ever, the foreign ministers of Japan, of South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand took part in a meeting of foreign ministers in NATO. And in a way, it's a reflection of the relevance that Japan has in world affairs. It's a very big country, it's a huge economy, and it's a country that also knows Russia and China very well. And this is what your minister brought to us, a sense of the world, a sense that democracies should come together because the war that Russia started in Ukraine is not only about Europe. The way in which this war would end, the way in which it will support Ukraine in its fight for fighting invasion, will be relevant for other players in other places of the world. So this is why we appreciate the participation of the Japanese foreign minister. We also look forward that at the NATO summit in Madrid in June to have the leaders, and we're also waiting for the Prime Minister of Japan to be with us in Madrid. It is immensely important, both in the knowledge and sophistication that Japan brings to all of us, also bringing the Indo-Pacific realities closer to our attention, but also in itself Japan is a very relevant country, and we appreciate the support, including in the sanctions imposed against Russia, in the support for Ukraine, and also have decided today to work even closer with Japan and the other countries in the Asia-Pacific to do more on cyber, to do more on new technologies, and Japan is a leading technological power, to do more about countering hybrid and disinformation campaigns, to do more for the freedom of navigation, which is important also for your part of the world. So again, Japan is a very close partner of ours and look forward to building upon that partnership.
One more question about Japan, sorry. So, Japanese Minister Hayashi expressed concern that China has not condemned this Russian invasion and Russian behavior. So, what's your view about this opinion?
This is a defining moment also for China. It's not only about Russia. It's not only about NATO. It's not only about European Union or G7 for that matter, where Japan also plays a leading role. It's also a moment of truth for China, because China for decades has presented herself as the champion of sovereignty, of freedom of decision of nations, against changes of borders by war. And all of a sudden, we see China supporting President Putin and Russia. So that's a sort of a significant shift in Chinese policy. We believe that China should reconsider the support for the war that Putin has started in Ukraine, because the way in which this war would end and the consequences of this war will be global. And if China wants to have a constructive competition with us, that's perfectly fine. We can compete, but also cooperate. But the way in which China will position now will determine the reputation of China in the world and what kind of old order we live in. Do we want a world with rules, a world with predictability, a world with competition between nations, which is something which will continue also with China, can be done in a predictable way with rules, or we want the law of the jungle international affairs. And this is a major test for China. It is a test for Russia. The second question for China is, do they want to be associated with a pariah? Putin today is a pariah internationally. His family is basically barred from visiting any free nation in the world. his leadership is basically under sanctions. Russia will become much more weak because of this war that they started against Ukraine. So that's a major, major decision for China to make. What kind of country would they want to be? What kind of world system they would like to contribute to? And what kind of camp do they want to be in the world? With the countries that defend sovereignty and the freedom of nations, or the countries that start war against their neighbors? We hope that China will choose to be part of a world system that is predictable, where competition can coexist with cooperation.
Ukraine Foreign Minister Kuleba told us, to the media, that what they want are 3 items: weapons, weapons, weapons. Yeah, so this is his simple message for NATO. So how will you answer this request?
Ukraine has the right to defend herself. This is in the UN Charter, the right to self-defense of nations when they're attacked by an enemy. So NATO is doing exactly that. We are helping a nation to defend itself. So this is why the second stage of the war that Russia started in Ukraine, after 6 weeks, is moving to another stage, a different stage, an inflection point in this war. And this is why, for a different type of war, because what will happen in the next few days or weeks will be a different kind of war than the ones we have seen for the first 6 weeks. Will be different. Will be more conventional, or will be larger territory, will be confrontation between more traditional armies. This is why President Zelensky, Foreign Minister Kuleba are asking from us support, military support, but also financial and humanitarian, but military support that is fit for the new stage of the war. And this is why I think he's right in asking more, but also different kind of equipments to be able to fight the same heroic fight that they fought for the first 6 weeks. Of course, it's up to each ally. NATO is not deciding on behalf of all 30 allies. Each ally individually, US, Canada, UK, Germany, France, whoever, Poland or Romania, they will decide what kind of support they can give. But Mr. Kuleba was very clear and very convincing that they need support for fighting the war in the new stage of the war. And this is something I believe allies will be responsive to the requests.
Someone was criticizing the German principle not to provide their arms to the computing area. So they changed last month. How do you see it?
We believe that this atrocious war by Putin in Ukraine was a wake-up call for many allies in Europe. Germany is the biggest country in the European Union and also the biggest ally in Europe of NATO. So the way in which Germany changed decade-long policy, that was of more restraint, more pacifistic if you want, even with legislation prohibiting to export weapons to areas of conflict. This has changed basically in a matter of days. Why? Because the war that Putin has waged against Ukraine, they were lying to the Germans, saying that they will not invade. They've been basically creating such emotion in the German public opinion, in the Japanese public opinion, the atrocities that we have seen. So I think we should applaud the fact that Germany, after long decades of a specific attitude when it comes to security and army and defense, they are living to the importance of the moment. We salute the change in German policy, and we know that this will continue.
Okay. So the next question about your country, so Romania. You were the first executive of the NATO from the former Eastern Bloc country. For the former Eastern Bloc country, how important is NATO presence?
Listen, there is a simple truth that there is no prosperity without security. So NATO offers security, which is the foundation of everything else. The moment you have security guaranteed by a strong alliance like NATO, everything else, economy, trade, culture, civic activities, or anything else can flourish. My country, Romania, I was foreign minister when my country joined NATO 18 years ago. The GDP of Romania quadrupled, 4 times larger than before. After we joined the European Union, we joined NATO, we joined the European Union. So for all of our countries, being part of NATO and European Union is security and prosperity. And this is why we are so happy to be in NATO and also feeling so secure being in NATO, especially seeing the tragedy in Ukraine. The war against Georgia a few years ago, the wars in Transnistria some decades ago, the war in Nagorno-Karabakh, not far away from the Black Sea. So being in NATO is security, which means prosperity, which means everything else. Unfortunately, Russia, and especially President Putin, they developed a sort of a false narrative. Because the situation domestically, internally in Russia is bad, they need to invent an enemy outside. That's standard politics, especially for autocrats like Putin, that stay for long in power. Because Russia today is a country that has a small economy, according to the size of the country. Now with the contraction of the economy, and because of the sanctions, which will be 10 to 15% contraction, I think they have the economy of Spain, a huge country having the economy of a medium-sized economic player in Europe. So in a way, Putin and the ideologues in the Kremlin, they needed basically a foreign enemy in order to have a motivation for the fact that Russia is doing very badly economically and socially. So they invented this idea that the West is bad, that NATO is bad, that America is bad, and we have something against them. This is not true. But just because to cover the weaknesses of the domestic situation in Russia, that's why they also try to pump up nationalism. That's why they're having this rhetoric. But in the end, that's only lies. It's only lies. Unfortunately, for some people in Russia, these lies have some traction. And it is our common obligation to start communicating as much as we can because of the censorship on free media and information in Russia, that in fact this war is not only a war against Ukraine. This is also a war against the young population of Russia itself. Not only the soldiers dying without knowing why and not knowing where because of this crazy war, but in fact the isolation of Russia because of the war is also making the young Russians not have a future. This is bad. So this war is not only against Ukraine that Putin started, it's a war against his own people in the end. And we hope only that the Russian people will discover that they're living in a lie, and we hope that this will change sooner rather than later.
The Secretary General of NATO and so some experts pointed out that this war might long for over a year or a couple of years. Yeah, what's your opinion about that?
Of course, what Secretary General Stoltenberg says is based on our analysis. He actually said that this war could take weeks, months, or even years. So this is a relatively long time span. It depends very much on the situation on the ground. It depends very much on how the balance of power between the Russian military regrouped and Ukrainian military would look like. So it could happen fast, it could take longer, or take even years. That's what Secretary General Stoltenberg basically said, that we should be prepared for any option in terms of the duration of the war. Of course, we'll hope to see a political solution sooner. We are supporting Ukraine because the stronger the Ukrainian army is, the faster a political solution would be, because Russia will be weakened and defeated eventually. So this will make them try diplomacy and not war. So we are prepared for any scenario, short, medium, or even longer scenario. We'll continue to support Ukraine.
Japanese TV station via TV Tokyo film to Japanese TV station.
About the situation because Russia say false. So thank you a lot about it.
So sorry, where are you from?
I'm from Mariupol. It's Donetsk region, yes, and the most powerful and the big battle in Ukraine now in Mariupol.
How did you come here? By train or by car? Or?
By bus. Firstly, I go to Moldova. After this, I go here. In Mariupol now, the most powerful and bad situation, we don't have connection, water, electricity, and another thing that can help people to live in city. And of course, we don't have food or water. Russian occupants also give bombs. I don't know how to say it. They bombing the area where people live or bomb shelters. They also bomb. So to be in Mariupol is dangerous. And my way from Mariupol to Odessa and after this to Moldova was so interesting also because I go by car across occupants.
So how long did it take to hear from
Mariupol? From Mariupol? 5 days.
5 days.
5 days. But it's not a big. It's not a long time because I don't have. Now in Mariupol, you can leave the city also by car, by personal car. No buses, no trains. No, only by personal car. So I don't have an opportunity before this 5 days ago, and also I can say that the Russian occupants grab our car to them, and we will go by another car. So they grab our car also.
So how do your family members?
Family members? No, I am from Lugansk. Yeah. To Mariupol I go to get education, and my parents now in Lugansk.
I see. So is it possible to contact with your family member? So.
Yes, I have contact. It's okay. They are safe, if I can say that, in a safe place because Lugansk region now is not attacked by Russian. They just occupied. So Russian soldiers attacked another city, another town in Ukraine. Now LPR and DPR they are in a safe place because Russia attacked another city. They want that Lugansk region and the Donetsk region that was occupied. They want to free them, and I think that it's very stupid idea, frankly speaking. Sorry for my language, but it's true. Because we don't want to be free. We are free. We have 30 years independence.
What's your plan? What's your plan in the near future? So in Berlin?
Oh, I don't know. I want I want to go to Berlin, and after this, we will see. We will see. I hope that I finish my education in Berlin. But frankly speaking, I very want to go to Ukraine again because it's my country. I love my country very much, and so I want that war will end soon, and I can return to Ukraine.
いわゆるロシアが実質的に支配しているという東ウクライナの、独立を承認したうちの一つ、ドネツクとルガンスクという国としてロシアが承認したというルガンスクから来ているという女性で、住んでいたのはマリウポリというエリアなんですけども、かなり情報が自分の故郷とウクライナのところで違うという話もしていました。
もう完全に今回のウクライナとロシアの問題のある意味すごい犠牲者というかという方ですね。
Diaz, 31 Diaz.
31.
For this one, from this one. So they wouldn't know the number you are calling from.
I must know. I didn't read. Алло. Что происходит? Алло. There's my family home with me in Romania. It's my grandmother. That's my son. This is a daughter, my sister's daughter. And else we have one small girl. She's 3 years old. It's my sister's daughter. And I don't know. I can only tell that in Ukraine is a terrible things, and more people need help, and more people need medicaments and eat, and in the Kharkiv or Mariupol the people cannot go away, won't stay here, or we said thank you all the country who help us, but we won't go home.
This location was for children in placement from the local authorities, and about 2 weeks ago we got some other children from Ukraine.
How many children are there?
We have 19 from Ukraine here, and then we have another 20 in another location.
ウクレイン出身の子とルーマニアのもともといた子がもう結構ミックスになってるんですけど、彼は2人はウクレインのウクライナから。Why did you decide to receive the children from Ukraine?
Because they needed help. How can you not? How can you not? Because we have a border with Ukraine, so it's historically they were very close. There's especially on the borders, there's people that speak still Romanian because it was part of Romania, some of Ukraine, and then it's changed.
Моя мама.
Это не мама, это мама. Мама.
Тетя.
Кто ты, мамочка? Давай, Паша. Some of them were crying, they were scared, and the carers as well, they were very unsure. Suddenly woke up into this organisation, they left as a big group, and then they were split into 3, and so it was very scary for them.
So do they understand what's going on in Odessa or in Ukraine?
Yes, they speak every day to the people they've got left behind.
What are they speaking?
The carers are speaking to family members, and then the children, we're trying to not expose them too much.
So do they have family members?
The children, no.
No.
But the carers do, they have family, they have husbands maybe that are there fighting, so it's a big stress for them too.
So do you have any plan in the near future or after that?
It's difficult because we don't know how long they're going to be here. We will care for them until they can go home. So it just depends on how things progress back home and when they are able to go back. But we will meet all their needs until that point and do the best that we can do for them to make them happy and healthy and enjoy their childhood.
Hello. Это японцы.
into.
Cap of their,
Yeah, so
yeah.
so I lost everything, including the plane ticket.
Ministerul Sănătății a avut în trecut, mai ales după accidentul din 1986 de la Cernobâl, a avut stocuri de astfel de produse care să poată să fie distribuite în caz de nevoie populației. În rezerva Ministerului Sănătății era o cantitate mică de iodure de potasiu și atunci am luat decizia să putem să producem într-un timp scurt. Am încercat să vedem care este cea mai bună oportunitate. Iar compania Antibiotice Iași, în care Ministerul Sănătății este principalul acționar, și ne gândim să putem să apelăm la medicii de familie care să ajute la distribuirea direct către populație și cu siguranță ei trebuie să poată să-și instruiască pacienții de pe listă, dar va exista și o campanie de informare națională legată de modul în care se utilizează. Ceea ce am făcut până în momentul de față, am fost să informăm să nu ia aceste preparate pe bază de iod, pentru că nu se dau preventiv și pot cauza mai mult rău decât bine, mai ales dacă se iau fără să nu existe niciun motiv. Informarea până acum s-a bazat pe convingerea oamenilor să nu ia intempestiv aceste produse, pentru că nu se administrează, dimpotrivă trebuie evitată administrarea. Chiar dacă le vom distribui populației, ele nu trebuie luate în momentul distribuirii, ci numai în caz de nevoie. Da, sunt conștient de știrea aceasta și tocmai din cauza asta am combătut orice fel de sugestie că aceste pastile ar trebui luate preventiv, mai ales. Și încă un lucru pe care trebuie să spunem tuturor este că și în situația în care există un incident nuclear, nu trebuie automat administrate aceste pastile, ci în funcție de caracteristicile acestui accident și de avertizările care vor exista legate de circulația diverselor izotopi radioactivi. Ei sunt eficienți în a răspunde rapid unor astfel de urgențe și e bine că Ministerul Sănătății din România are o astfel de facilitate de producție. Cred că este posibil, dar nu este probabil. Pe lumea asta orice este posibil, important este să nu fie probabil.